In the last class, we have seen the importance of temperature coefficient of resistance. Today, we will look for the definition of temperature coefficient of resistance. Then we will see some drawbacks of Ohm's law, and finally we will study the resistors in series and parallel modes. How effective resistance can be found when resistors are connected in series and parallel mode. So these are the items or topics that we are going to discuss today. We have the definition of temperature coefficient of resistance in the previous class. Also we have written the equation for the alpha. So what was alpha? Alpha is equal to R2 minus R1 divided by R1 T2 minus R2 T1. And what is R1 here? R1 is the temperature of the material at a temperature T1 degree Celsius. R2 is the resistance of the material at the temperature T2 degree Celsius. Now let T1 be 0 degree Celsius, and when temperature is 0, the corresponding resistance is say R0. Therefore we can rewrite this equation as alpha is equal to R2 minus R0, because in place of R1 we can write R0 because R1 is the resistance at 0 degree Celsius. So R2 minus R0 divided by R1 T2 minus R2 T1 is 0. So R2 into 0. R2 into 0 is of course 0. So what we get is R2 minus R0 divided by R1 T2. Now there is no need of T2 because there we have only one temperature. So no need of T2 here. So we may again rewrite this equation, or we may replace T2 with another notation. That is alpha is equal to RT minus R0 divided by R0 into T, because R1 can be replaced with R0, where R0 represents the resistance at 0 degree Celsius. So we may just rewrite this R1 as R0. So alpha is equal to RT minus R0 is the equation for alpha, provided the initial temperature is 0. Now in this equation, alpha is equal to RT minus R0 divided by R0 into T. RT can be any temperature. RT can be any temperature. So if we know the resistance at 0 degree Celsius and temperature at any given temperature, and RT is the corresponding resistance, then we can find the value of alpha. Now in this equation, as the temperature increases, the value of RT minus R0 will increase, because as the temperature increases, resistance will increase. So if if the resistance is R0, that means R0 is the resistance for 0 degree Celsius. But with the increase in the temperature T, there will be an increase in the value of RT. So since RT is increasing, RT is the resistance at T degree Celsius. So when T increases, RT will increase. And when RT increases, RT minus R0 quantity will also increase. That means with the increase in temperature, RT minus R0 will increase. And with this idea, we can define the temperature coefficient of resistance. So therefore, temperature coefficient of resistance is the increase in resistance. That means RT minus R0 represent the increase in resistance. So temperature coefficient of resistance is the increase in resistance per unit resistance per unit degree rise of temperature. So increase in resistance is RT minus R0. So increase in resistance per unit resistance, that is RT minus R0 by R0. Also per unit degree rise of temperature, that is T. So RT minus R0 divided by R0 into T will give the definition of temperature coefficient of resistance. Now we may find the values of temperature coefficient of resistance for some materials. The materials listed are copper, aluminum and tungsten. And what is the alpha value? That is, what is the temperature coefficient of resistance of copper? It is 4.3 into 10 raised to minus 3 per degree rise of temperature, or per degree Celsius. Similarly, for aluminum, the value of alpha is 4.4 into 10 raised to minus 3 per degree Celsius. Then we have tungsten. For tungsten, the value of alpha is 4.5 into 10 raised to minus 3 per degree Celsius. So all these are metals, right? All these are metals, and all these are conductors also. Then there is nichrome. For nichrome, the value of alpha is 0.4 into 10 raised to minus 3 per degree Celsius. So when we compare all these values, we have seen that the value of alpha for nichrome is very small compared to that of these conductors, because here all these are of the order of say 4, right? 4 into 10 raised to minus 3. Approximately we can take all these values as say 4 into 10 raised to minus 3, but here it is 0.4. It is 0.4 into 10 raised to minus 3 per degree Celsius. So when we compare all these, we can see the value of alpha for nichrome is very small. And what is the meaning of this? This means the value of alpha for nichrome is very less, or the value of alpha is positive also. That means what? There is a very small increase in resistance with the temperature for nichrome. So we have seen that there is a relation between resistance and temperature that we have already seen. And there we have seen that when the temperature increases, resistance will also increase. And when the value of alpha is positive, it will increase, and when the alpha is negative, it will decrease. So since alpha is very less or very small for nichrome, this means with increase in temperature, the increase in resistance of nichrome is very small. And it is for this purpose we are using this nichrome wire for many experimental purposes. And this nichrome is a alloy also. So all the other three materials are conductors, and here this one, and those are metals also, but here nichrome is a alloy, and the value of alpha is very low. And when compared to this alloy, for these conductors the value of alpha is very high. That means what? That means when the temperature increases, the resistance of these materials will increase substantially. And when compared to these conductors, the increase in resistance will be less for the nichrome wire. Then there is carbon or graphite. This carbon or graphite, we will later learn more about this carbon or graphite. For this, the value of alpha is minus 50 into 10 raised to minus 5 per degree Celsius, or it is negative. The value of alpha is negative 50 into 10 raised to minus 5 per degree Celsius. That means alpha is negative. And we have seen the implication of what happens when alpha is negative, or what is the implication of the value of alpha when it is negative. When alpha is negative, with the increase in temperature, the resistance will decrease, right? So for carbon or graphite, with respect to temperature, or when the temperature increases, the value of resistance will decrease. Anyway, we will see more about graphite and carbon in the last chapters. Then, so we have conductors, insulators, and semiconductors. Then, other than these conductors, insulators, and semiconductors, there is one more type of material which are called superconductors. So, what is a superconductor? The name itself shows that it is a conductor. It is not an insulator. It is not a semiconductor, but it is a conducting body, or it is a conductor. But it is a superconductor. That means what? It is a superconductor means the conduction should be more than that of a normal conductor. And for that, for a normal conductor, what happens when the temperature increases? For a normal conductor, when the temperature increases, correspondingly the resistance will increase, right? When the temperature increases, correspondingly the resistance will increase from the equation RT is equal to R0 into 1 plus alpha T, right? Because for conductors or for metals, the value of alpha is positive also. So when temperature increases, resistance will increase. But for a superconductor, when the temperature increases, resistance will suddenly vanish. It is not proper to say it is decreasing, but it is not proper to say it is decreasing, but it will simply vanish, right? It will suddenly vanish. The resistance will suddenly vanish. So for a superconductor, when we increase the temperature, the resistance will suddenly vanish. And what is the meaning the resistance vanish, or resistance vanishes? Resistance vanishes means there is no resistance for the electron flow. There is zero resistance for the electron flow. So there is a good level of conductivity. There is a conduction without any resistance. So that condition is called superconductivity. Conduction without any resistance is the mode of superconductors. And here there is a graph showing the variation of resistance with the temperature for mercury. This graph shows variation of resistance with the temperature for mercury. Here we can see when the temperature decreases, the temperature is shown in Kelvin scale. So when the temperature decreases, you can see in this part the resistance is almost a constant. But when the temperature becomes 4 degrees Celsius, suddenly the resistance falls to 0. So for mercury, when the temperature is decreased, or it is decreased to 4 degree Kelvin, then the resistance suddenly vanishes. So this kind of abrupt fall in resistance will lead to superconductivity. The actual temperature for this happen to is 4.2 Kelvin, and the temperature at which this happens is called critical temperature. Thus, for mercury at 4.2 Kelvin, the resistance suddenly disappears. So there is a conduction without any resistance in the case of mercury at 4.2 Kelvin. And this temperature is called critical temperature, and this critical temperature will be different for different materials. So we may define this critical temperature. Critical temperature is the temperature at which, that at which is repeated again, at which the resistance of a material suddenly vanishes and it behaves like a superconductor. So critical temperature is the temperature at which the resistance of a material suddenly vanishes. That means here you can see at 4.2 Kelvin the resistance suddenly falls to 0, right? Up to this point the resistance is present, right? It is almost a constant anyway, but when the temperature becomes 4.2 Kelvin, suddenly the resistance vanishes or resistance becomes 0. And now onwards, that is at 4.2 Kelvin onwards, this mercury will behave as a superconductor. So Tc is the symbol for critical temperature. Tc, T subscript C is the symbol for critical sorry, not super temperature, critical temperature. T subscript C represent the critical temperature, and critical temperature for lead is 7.25 Kelvin. So the critical temperature for mercury is 4.2 Kelvin, and that for lead is 7.25 Kelvin. Now there are some drawbacks for Ohm's law. So what are the drawbacks of Ohm's law? First, all the conductors do not obey Ohm's law. The conductors that obey Ohm's law are called ohmic conductors. The conductors that do not obey Ohm's law are called non-ohmic conductors. Then even ohmic conductors do not obey Ohm's law at higher temperature, because we know at higher temperature what happens. At higher temperature the resistance will increase substantially, and the definition of Ohm's law is like this: at a constant temperature the current through a conductor is directly proportional to potential difference across it, or potential difference between the ends. So we define the Ohm's law by keeping the temperature a constant. So even ohmic conductors do not obey Ohm's law at a higher temperature, because at a higher temperature there will be a good variation for the resistance, or this V will not be proportional to I. Then Ohm's law is not obeyed when current flow through electrolyte. So when current is flowing through an electrolyte, Ohm's law is not obeyed. Or ions, right? In the case of electrolyte there will be ions. Ions are the conductors in the case of electrolyte. So these ions will not obey Ohm's law. And finally, semiconductors do not obey Ohm's law. Semiconductors will not obey Ohm's law, because we have seen that semiconductors have a different property. That is why they are called semiconductors. So these are some drawbacks of Ohm's law. And here I have shown you 4 graphs, and can you tell me which of these graph or graphs represent Ohm's law or that of an ohmic conductor? Which of the graphs or graph represent that of the Ohm's law? For A, you can see that gradually the graph gradually increases, then it becomes almost a constant. Then initially, in the case of graph B, initially it gradually increases, and then there is sudden difference in the IV ratio. Then here there is a gradual change at the last part of the straight line, and here it is always a straight line. So it is very clear that graph D represent an ohmic conductor or an ohmic material. Next we will discuss combination of resistors. So we have seen Ohm's law, and in Ohm's law R is equal to V by I, where R is the resistance. Then every material will be having some resistance. Then those materials that will offer resistance are generally called resistors. In that sense, every conductor can be called a resistor, because every conductor offers some amount of resistance to the current flow. So how these resistors can be connected? So that is the next point of discussion, how this can be connected. The first mode of connection is a series connection. So this is how resistors are connected in series. So this represent the symbol of a resistance. This you might have learned in your elementary class. So this is the symbol of resistance. So here there are three resistors, say R1, R2 and R3, which are in series. Now these are connected to a cell. So when the three resistors are connected to a cell having a potential V, what will be the effective resistance? So when it is connected to three resistors which are in series, there will be different voltage coming across each resistor. So across R1 the voltage is V1, then it is V2 for R2 and V3 for R3. Then what is the total potential? Total potential V is equal to V1 plus V2 plus V3. Then we have Ohm's law. According to Ohm's law, V is equal to I into R. That is the mathematical statement of Ohm's law, where I is the current and R is the resistance. And here you can see that the current I is passing through R1, R2 and R3. Therefore, the current is same for all the resistors, but for each resistor the resistance is different. Therefore, here it is I into R1, then I into R2, I into R3. Therefore, we can write V is equal to I R1 plus I R2 plus I R3, since V is equal to IR. Therefore, V is equal to, here you can see I is a common factor. So I into R1 plus R2 plus R3. Now this I is taken to the left hand side, that is V by I. V by I is equal to R1 plus R2 plus R3. Now what is V by I? From this Ohm's law we can see that V by I is equal to R. Therefore in place of V by I we can write the resistance R, that is R is equal to R1 plus R2 plus R3. So R1 plus R2 plus R3 represent the effective resistance when three resistors are connected in series. R is equal to R1 plus R2 plus R3 represent the effective resistance in series. Now we have one more mode of connection, or one more mode of combination, which is the parallel connection. So how this parallel connection is made? So this is how we are making a parallel connection. So this is the parallel mode of connection. Here you can see R1, R2, R3 are in parallel mode of connection. Now these are connected to a cell of potential V, and current I is flowing from this cell, and when this current I reaches this junction, it will branch out as I1, I2 and I3. That is I is equal to, some part of I is I1, then some part is I2 and some part is I3, or I1 plus I2 plus I3 will form the current I. So when the current I branches out as I1, I2 and I3, I1 will flow through R1, I2 will flow through R2 and I3 will flow through R3. And for all the resistors the potential will be same, always the potential is V. Now we have I is equal to I1 plus I2 plus I3, right? Therefore I is equal to I1 plus I2 plus I3. And what is I? From Ohm's law I is equal to V by R. From this Ohm's law you can see that I is equal to V by R. So it is for I1 it is V by R1, for I2 it is V by R2, for I3 it is V by R3. Therefore it is V by R1 plus V by R2 plus V by R3, since I is equal to V by R from Ohm's law. Now again you can rewrite this equation as I is equal to, now here you can see V is a common factor. Therefore I is equal to V into 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2 plus 1 by R3. Now we can take this V to the LHS or left hand side. Now this equation will become I by V this equation will become I by V is equal to 1 by R, sorry, 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2 plus 1 by R3. And what is I by V? I by V will be 1 by R. From Ohm's law, I by V should be 1 by R. Therefore, 1 by R is equal to 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2 plus 1 by R3. And what is 1 by R here? 1 by R is the reciprocal of effective resistance. Here 1 by R represent the reciprocal of effective resistance. So if we want to find the value of R, we should take the reciprocal of this value. That will give you the resistance R. So this is the difference between series and a parallel mode of connections. So here it is R1 plus R2 plus R3 for series, and for parallel connection it is reciprocal of resistance is 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2 plus 1 by R3. Okay, so with this we are winding up here. Thank you for watching.